Penguin Random House Audio presents When It All Burns, Fighting Fire in a Transformed World. This is the author, Jordan Thomas. This book is for the hotshots, for all the people on the front lines of the climate crisis, and for Kathy Supple. Author's Note. When I began writing this book, I wanted to write about climate change and wildfires. I quickly realized, however, that it wouldn't be accurate to write about this topic without chronicling the historical factors that shaped the landscapes climate change now disrupts. This history includes the ways indigenous people in California used, as many continue to use, fire to shape the land. It also includes the violent processes by and through which governments have attempted to take the use of fire away from indigenous people through time. As a white anthropologist and writer, this presented me with a dilemma. Any account of the megafires of today that does not centrally acknowledge indigenous burning perpetuates an erasure of indigenous people, including their histories and contemporary movements for cultural sovereignty. If a story of fire is to be told, it must not only include but also elevate the lived realities of indigenous people, and ideally be a voice from these diverse communities. This, however, is not me. And outsiders, often external anthropologists such as myself, have a disquieting history of narrating indigenous stories on their behalf. This has often led to a failure to reflect people's lived realities, and, at times, has perpetuated dominant systems that undermine indigenous cultural sovereignty. It is a fraught space in which to write. Honestly, I don't believe there is a clear resolution to this dilemma of erasure versus narration. Nor do I think there could or should be. Like many dilemmas, this one begs a constant revisiting, reflection, and attention. In this book, I've done my best to draw from indigenous sources when detailing their histories and current perspectives on fires. This includes using primary sources in the historical literature, interviewing indigenous fire practitioners and activists working to revive cultural burning, and attempting to forefront the work of indigenous scholars who provide critical perspectives on wildfire management. The end result is far from perfect, I'm sure, and I humbly request patience from my readers as I do my best to craft a story that is both accurate and ethical. Introduction. One afternoon in September 2021, as a megafire burned through Sequoia National Forest, my hotshot crew marched into a grove of its ancient trees. In the crisp air of high country, the sounds of creaking wood and swishing pine muted our footsteps. Sequoias towered through the smoke. Their canopy closed hundreds of feet above. We moved between trunks the size of cabins, the bark grooved and red. Small squads dropped off from our crew of 20, spreading along the ridge to prepare for the megafire hurtling toward us. My own group peeled off near the top of the ridge to await orders. After fighting this fire for the past week, my knees ached, my blisters stung, and my head hurt. I was tired. I knew the other hotshots felt the same. They were chewing tobacco and sharpening their tools. Hybridized shovels, axes, and hoes with macho names: the Rogue, Pig, Chingadera. I set my chainsaw on the forest floor, removed my gloves, and, for the 5th time that day, pricked my thumb on the chain's teeth to make sure they were sharp. The grove made me restless. In the past 2 decades, wildfires have been doing things not even computer models can predict. Environmental events that have scientists racking their brains for appropriately dystopian terminology. Firenadoes, firestorms, gigafires, megafires. Scientists recently invented the term megafire to describe wildfires that behave in ways that would have been impossible just a generation ago. Burning through winter, exploding in the night, and devastating landscapes historically impervious to incendiary destruction, like the sequoia groves of California. Sequoias are among the oldest organisms in existence, with fire-resistant bark several feet thick and crowns that can recover when 90% is scorched. They even rely on fire to reproduce, as flames crack their cones so seedlings can germinate. Now, the same ecological force they once depended upon is pushing them toward extinction. Sequoias' lives are monuments of deep time. Their death would signify something else. If we could not hold this ridge against the megafire, the sequoias would become the largest torches on Earth, carrying flames higher than the Statue of Liberty. After 3,000 years of life, they would become charred monuments to a passing era, symbols of a violent future. By holding the ridge, I felt we were holding back a new, altered world. As I waited on the fire line with ash in my lungs, I still hoped this was possible. A figure appeared through the smoke, huffing toward us. I stood, worried our superintendent, Aoki, the leader of the Los Padres hotshots, would catch us sitting. I relaxed when I recognized Jackson. "Jack," someone called. "What's the word?" another asked. "Fellas," Jack greeted us, loosening his pack to catch his breath. His face and beard were caked in dirt. "Cancel your plans, boys. We're going to be up all night." Word had traveled down the chain of command that we were going to burn our line that evening. We had spent 6 days building that line, working from sunrise to sunset, cutting a path through brush and hills, up a mountain ridge, into high timber, and finally to an old logging road. Wildfires cannot burn without fuel, grass, bushes, and trees, and our line formed a fuel break, a continuous barrier of dirt that snaked around the megafire. When the conditions were right, we would set fire to its edges. The flames we lit would move toward the megafire and consume the fuel in its path. This is the fire line, a dirt band that holds fire back from the world. Now, we only had a few hours before the megafire would hit us, a few hours to finish the line and set fire to the ridge. "It's going to be a shitty burn," Jack relayed. "We'll be chasing spot fires all night." I asked if we had any safety zones, defensible spaces like meadows, where we could survive if the fire got out of control. Jack hedged, chewing the corner of his mustache. "There's some bulldozers trying to plow one near the peak," he said. "The thing is, we'll be going downhill. So if this thing gets away from us, we'll need to run to our vehicles and get out of here." "It's a 45-minute drive out of the forest," I noted. "Yeah, hopefully we'll get out." A radio crackled. Through the static came a gruff voice. Marlone was reporting from his lookout position. "The fire seems a little more extreme," he said. 300-foot flames coming at us." Aoki's laughter cut into the radio traffic. "Okay, let's get the rest of the line pushed through and get that burn going." My group huddled in the trees in smoke and radio silence. We didn't know where Aoki was, or who he was telling to push the line. We often joked that he was a mountain spirit. Tall and willow-thin, with black hair that fell to the small of his back, he moved with the smoke, drifting and reappearing through the trees. Aoki had turned 50 that season, and was widely considered the most experienced hotshot in California, a state that claims the most skilled firefighters globally. Now the megafire was throwing embers ahead of its advance, starting smaller fires, spot fires, like raiding parties for an approaching army. Axel, as squad boss, called us toward one that was smoking in the valley below. If we let it grow, it would rush up and cross our line, igniting the forest behind us and trapping us in the path of the megafire. "If the fire gets behind us," Axel said, "we're fucked." Scrambling down loose rocks into the valley, we followed Axel's shout and found the spot fire. It had grown to the size of a football field. We cut around it, choked with smoke. In the ringing silence that follows a chainsaw's scream, I realized that the silence was becoming a roar, and the roar came from the megafire. It was close. The dark understory of the forest began to glow, a vibration emanating from its depths, rising to the sound of a jet engine. The treetops groaned with wind created by the force of the megafire. On the fire line, I rarely felt adrenaline. I experienced danger more as a pressure, a weight that never fully disappeared. As the danger grew, so did the weight. With the megafire roaring through the trees, I'd dropped my chainsaw and begun filing the saw's teeth to new points. Now the chainsaw shook in my hands. "Listen." Axel cocked his head, with wild eyes and a feral grin.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?